Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange, and the host who might be a ghost. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all of the strange and unusual literature that I have found while I have been estranged from the people I love. Today it is Short Story Tuesday, an opportunity to talk about, all the short form literature that is out there. Some collections, maybe just a random short story that an author has placed into the ether. Today, I want to talk about a specific collection that focuses on mental illness, being estranged from your loved ones, a sense of melancholy, and perhaps even kidnapping of all things. So that's what's in this collection. I am talking about Dinosaurs on Other Planets by Danielle McLaughlin. You see the front cover. I don't think that's a dinosaur. It looks like a giant stork to me, but maybe that's what dinosaurs look like on other planets. I'm not 100% sure there. I got this from the library. An interesting note about that is, one, patronize your library, but also, in an interesting twist, I'm finding myself being connected to more and more like recent short story collections rather than from years ago, and that's just because the way the library sorts, I'm always getting results that are from the most recent. So I don't even know if the library has like older collections of short stories. They might sell them in their rummage sales or something like that, but I don't know for sure. For those that don't know about Danielle McLaughlin, she is a brand spanking new author. She's had some of her work published in newspapers and journals and stuff like that. But she hasn't. This I believe is her debut short story collection. I don't think she's published a novel yet. And I have to say, what a way to start out if this is your like very first book, because it is a real a real deal right there. Like I'll explain why as I go through. But I do look forward to other work that she does, because this is pretty interesting. She's an Irish author. That's pretty much all I know about her, because like she's brand new, so there's not a lot of information about her, or even stuff worth sharing that's not just personal life stuff. So there's that. So yeah, the story that I wanted to talk to you about today from the collection is Dinosaurs from Other Planets. So the titular, eponymous, I believe it is the correct term, story from the collection. So I'll provide a little summary and a little analysis, and we'll go on from there. So Dinosaurs from Other Planets is a short story that focuses on Kate and Coleman. So they're two, they're an Irish woman and an Irish man who live in the Irish countryside by themselves. Over the course of the story, it's revealed that they're married, and they have a bit of a troubled marriage, because it seems like the intimacy and the passion has gone out of their relationship. They really only talk about like fixing up the house and making sure they have what they need, and talking about their children. At least twice, like Kate is in the bedroom with her husband, and like they try to get something going, but Coleman doesn't really seem to be interested in what's going on in the bedroom. Like Kate even notes that like when she sees his naked body, like it's really old, and it's not as handsome. It's not as handsome as he was maybe 20 years ago. So they're in a bit of an unhappy state. Maybe together just because that's familiar to them. So they do have two children. John, who is either a soldier or he's dead. It's a bit unclear in the story what's happened to him. He hasn't been at home for a while though. And there's also Emer, who has a child, and has been away at either college or work in the city somewhere. So they haven't really been visited by their children in a while either. But that changes because Emmer is coming to visit for the weekend. And she brings along her son, Oisin. I'll put a pronunciation or a spelling thing right there, but it must be an Irish name. It's Oisin, and like I don't know how to pronounce it really. It's an interesting name. So yeah, this is the only time that Kate and Coleman get to spend with their grandchildren. So they're very enthused and they have stuff planned. Interestingly, Emmer also brings along a new boyfriend named Pavel. And this is kind of shocking to Kate and Coleman because this is a new guy in her life that Emmer did not tell them about, and they're kind of wondering like, where's the other guy? Like presumably Oisin's father. Like, why isn't he in the picture? So it sounds like there's been like a bit of a communication disconnect there going on through their lives. Coleman takes Oisin fox catching, maybe fox hunting, and while they go out, Oisin finds a sheep skull that he believes to be a dinosaur. And they end up teaching Oisin about like meteorites and how the dinosaurs died. And Oisin asks a question about like, can there be dinosaurs on other planets, where the title comes from. And Coleman's like, no, not at all. And Pavel's like, oh, well, I guess it could be. A little difference between Pavel and Coleman, I guess, right there. Later on in the story, Emmer reveals that she plans to move to Australia, possibly for a job or something like that. And Kate finds out, and she's really, it really puts her in a funk because she rarely gets to spend time with Emmer or her grandchildren presently. So if Emmer moves to Australia, even for a brief time, like, she's not going to have much more time to spend with her children. She's getting up there in years, and maybe she recognizes that she's going to die in the near future because, being old and whatnot. So Emmer says it's for a short time, but Kate is still unhappy about it, and Coleman too, to some extent. Again, as I mentioned before, there's instances where like it shows that Kate and Coleman's marriage is not as strong as it used to be, and there's a part in the story where Kate tries to initiate sex with Coleman after she learns about what Emmer's going to do going to Australia, and Coleman kind of just rejects her advances, and it's like it's really sad. And so like Kate goes downstairs and she sees Pavel, and like I think she briefly considers having sex with Pavel. Again, it's a little unclear in the story. And then she goes outside to to bleach the remainder of the sheep skull so that Oisin can have it. Still a commitment to her grandson, as you can see. And then she considers the stars and how if you get too close to a star, it could possibly blind you. And that's the end of the story there. So like most of the stories in this collection, like this story is sad and forlorn, and even you get a sense of melancholy. Like I feel like that's an extreme word to use in specific situations, but many of the stories here, like they have a deep sense of sadness that roots inside of you, and you don't find much joy in these stories, and that's definitely McLaughlin's attention there, to make you feel like how the characters are feeling, which is they're like not only in this story but in all of them, like there's a sense that their lives haven't turned out the way they wanted to, or there's an event going on in their lives that is just leaving them in a rut, and so they like things aren't going the way they want to. So that tends to produce like a melancholy and depression, a whole bunch of things. And it's interesting how McLaughlin writes that you're able to get in that mindset. One of the big themes in this story in particular is the idea of empty nest and estrangement from children. Children, like when you reach the empty nest stage of your life, like your children are going off and like they might not come back for like a while. You might not see them for a while, so it's likely that you might become estranged from your children, or not estranged so much as you just might not see them as much. And I think that's definitely what happens with Kate and Coleman here. They become estranged from their children because they mention their other child John, but like it's clear he never visits. And Emmer visits from time to time, but she comes back and her life is totally different, and she never keeps them updated about it. She's dating Pavel, and like, who's Pavel? Like, wasn't Emmer dating another dude who was Oysen's father? Like, Kate's unhappy that she never gets to spend time with her grandchild, and she's worried that all Oysen's going to remember of the time is the sheep skull, and like, that's not a real pleasant memory, like, to have, I guess, unless the child is morbid and goth or some sort of thing like that. But it's also important to think about how there's an estrangement here from each other. Like, Kate and Coleman no longer love each other like they used to. There's a drifting apart, much like there was a drifting apart with the children and the parents, which I think is another interesting way that McLaughlin captures that estrangement. It certainly like makes the story even sadder. Like, they used to have each other, but now they don't even have each other. They kind of have they only have them, and like, that's not enough to get you through life. Like Kate wants to be around her family and wants to be around the ones she loves, and she can't seem to have that at this time. This would present create a sense of despair within someone that I feel is properly illustrated by a quote I found in here, a little passage that I want to read. So, Pavel shrugged and glanced at Kate. He seemed downcast this morning, she thought, quieter in himself. She looked down at the skull and at the debris that had floated free of it, and something about it, the emptiness, the lifelessness, appalled her. And suddenly she couldn't bear the idea of the boy's small hands touching it. No, she said, it's not ready yet. Maybe tomorrow. So you really get that sense of despair that's within Kate and Coleman. Not so much Coleman. Coleman's not the real focus of the story, but Kate, yeah. Like, she sees the skull and like she's appalled by the emptiness and the lifelessness within it. Like, and I feel like that's representative of the despair that Kate feels. Like she sees the skull is sort of a reflection of her own life, and it's kind of like it kind of takes seeing that to sort of realize that her life isn't going the direction that she's heading back. Because I think that's sort of the moment where she comes to understand, like, if not this, then certainly in the bedroom with Coleman. I think that's an important thing to grasp, and that passage in itself is beautifully written by Danielle here. I think it enhances the story and really helps you capture what she's trying to say. I also think it's interesting how there's no resolution by the end of the story. Like, Danielle introduces this concept or this idea that Kate and Coleman are very unhappy, and they come to realize how unhappy they are with their children not being present and their own relationship kind of failing. But Danielle makes no attempt to resolve this plot. Like, she throws it at you and lets you sit with it. And I really think that's what Zadie Smith was going for in Grand Union. I talked about her short story collection a week or two ago, and I noted that I wasn't a fan just because the story it never clicked with me. But these stories, I feel, are trying to do the exact same thing, which is leave you with a sense of sadness, leave you thinking, considering how maybe the world doesn't like resolve itself so beautifully like it does in some forms of fiction. And that's how I think McLaughlin over here does a great job, but Zadie Smith, not so much. And so you're left to sit with the sadness, and I definitely felt that sadness as I read the story. Overall, I would say I loved this collection of short stories. For this to be her first outing as an author, like, given she published some other work in newspapers and whatnot, but for this to be her first published outing, I think that's really telling, and I would absolutely love to see more of her work down the road. Maybe brace myself first, because if it's anything like this, it's going to be really sad. I definitely recommend it out there. There are a couple short stories in this collection that are definitely worth reading. Some that maybe don't hold up, but overall it's a pretty solid work. If you read this in the past or simply want to comment about something that I said, feel free to leave a comment below so that we can have a discussion about this wonderful book. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get the message out there, or to simply draw more eyes to this BookTube channel. In the meantime, I wish you a pleasant time in your weird travels. Farewell.